Investigators are now naming names and bringing charges in connection with the MH17 air disaster. You may remember the Malaysia Airlines passenger jet shot down by pro-Russian forces over Ukraine almost 5 years ago. All 298 people on board were killed, including a Canadian. Thomas Dagg is in London, and Thomas has been listening as Dutch prosecutors lay out their case and really move this whole story, sad saga, forward. What are the big headlines from that news conference, Thomas?
Well, this was from the international investigation team, including the Dutch and Australian authorities. We have known from this long-running investigation, Heather, that authorities in Europe believe that the Buk missile system, which was used from a field in Ukraine to bring down MH17, that Boeing 777, that it was brought over from Russia. And those four pictures you're seeing, those four names, are the four suspects, 3 Russians and 1 Ukrainian, who Dutch prosecutors have named today as the 4 men chiefly responsible for bringing that Buk missile system from Russia over to Ukraine, and ultimately for the murder of those 298 people who were on board MH17. Now, they say they had a hierarchy, beginning with one man, a Russian named Igor Girkin, who was a former Russian military intelligence officer who became defense minister in the so-called Donetsk People's Republic. You'll recall the Russian-linked republic in that eastern Ukrainian region as tensions flared up back in 2014, right around the time of that incident. Here is a bit more explanation from one of the Dutch prosecutors who was on hand at the press conference today.
The possibility exists that the suspects wanted to shoot a military airplane instead of a passenger flight. Even if that was the original plan, we do hold them responsible for downing MH17. What they actually knew, wanted, and eventually did will have to be established by the court during the criminal proceedings.
So, Thomas, again, to reiterate what you said, the investigators, the international investigators, concluded the missile came from a Russian anti-aircraft brigade. That was what shut down the commercial plane. 3 of the suspects are Russian. What are the chances they'll face trial?
Just about nil, I would say, Heather. Investigators in the Netherlands have said that they're not asking for the extradition of these 4 suspects, given that both Russia and Ukraine generally do not extradite their citizens for prosecution overseas. But what prosecutors are asking for is cooperation from Moscow so that these men can face justice. But you'll recall Russia has already said that it had nothing to do with this attack, so it is difficult to imagine how they will now turn these men over to authorities in the Netherlands. 3 of these men have backgrounds, according to investigators, in Russian military intelligence. The 4th man, the Ukrainian, no official military background, but apparently led forces in that fight on the ground in 2014. Authorities want a trial to begin in 2020. Hard to see that happening, Heather.
Thomas, thank you so much. Thomas Dagg on the breaking news from London.